Smoking weed became too expensive, and I had to find ways of supporting or sustaining my addiction. I was in a dark place. One night I smuggled weed into school. Someone was caught. My name came up. Yeah, the next thing I know, I was sent to rehab.
Cannabis is the drug obtained from the dried leaves and flowers of the hemp plant, which is smoked or consumed for its psychoactive or medical properties.
My name is Frank. I'm 24 years old. I started smoking weed at the age of 11.
Around 10% of cannabis smokers become addicted to the drug. Early use increases the risk significantly. 1 in 6 teens who start using cannabis will eventually develop an addiction.
I was raised by a single mother in a family of 3. I was the youngest and an elder brother. When I was 5, my brother was diagnosed with sickle cell anemia. Before he was hospitalized, my mother would leave me with him alone. It was that typical African setting where there are some things that can't be spoken about. You can't tell your mom that I don't feel like being the bigger brother. After a couple of years of dealing with that, the pressure mounts. You need an escape. And eventually I turned to weed because it offered solace. My first weed smoking experience with a group of friends at a soccer field. A friend kind of jokingly forced me along with the rest into taking a puff.
Using cannabis is particularly risky while your brain is still developing, a process that lasts until your mid-20s. In those who are younger, frequent use can lead to problems with learning, memory, and attention span.
You think you're in your own world, and when you are in a bad place emotionally or a bad situation at home and you can't talk to anyone about it, you're smoking. At times I'd smoke daily, then sometimes when you're with friends you'd smoke twice.
THC is the main psychoactive compound in cannabis. It triggers a high that's often described as a euphoric or relaxed feeling, but it can also negatively affect your mood, thoughts, and perception of reality.
A place I'd get weed was an ice cream shop. It did help with my day in school. Sometimes in class, I'd lose my concentration. I'd start thinking about other situations in life, and I'd realize that weed would make the distractions go away.
If cannabis is consumed regularly, the brain comes to rely on the drug, making it harder to function without it. If use stops suddenly, it can then cause cravings, mood swings, restlessness, focus issues, and other withdrawal symptoms.
Denial of pain, denial of emotions, denial of experiences. I was in a dark place. At the prime of everything, I smoked 7 joints in a span of 30 hours.
Cannabis can ease anxiety in the short term, but constantly using it to cope with these kinds of feelings can lead to psychological dependence. And long term, the drug can actually increase the risk of anxiety, depression, or psychosis, especially if you are already predisposed to mental health problems.
I'd have to find ways of financing my addiction, which is where I'd have to sell drugs to other students and anyone really. One of the students I sold weed to gave it to the junior boys, which was not supposed to happen. My name came up. Yeah, the next thing I know, I was sent to rehab.
Most of our problems, they start from our childhood, right?
Cannabis addiction is not easy to kick, but it's possible. And you start by looking within yourself. What is really paining you? And how do you overcome that?
It triggered this process of me recognizing that it's gonna last a lifetime. There are strategies I use in situations where I would rather use weed. I engage in deep focused work. I exercise, I meditate. It frees my mind of clutter and increases my focus. So I have people who, when I'm totally distressed or depressed, that give them a call.
I'm so proud of Frank. My addiction spun over 20 years. Can you imagine an 18, 19-year-old kicking a habit? Every day he has to wake up and he has to make those difficult decisions. Who do I surround myself with? And what kind of life do I actually want to live and lead?
You cannot completely heal from being an addict, but you work towards being free from your drug of choice. I've fought it, and so far I've been able to live a life free of drugs, and it's a good one for me.